Пане Олексію, чи хтось бажає прокоментувати?
Would anyone like to ask questions? Archbishop of Simferopol and Crimea Clement. The more I come to Ukraine from occupied territory, the more I want to come here. You're talking about everything, but I want to ask one question, the state of Ukraine. When will you be talking about Ukrainians who are staying in the occupied Crimea? When will you address the issues of Ukrainians? Today, the only center where Ukrainians of Crimeans are getting together is Ukrainian Orthodox Church of Kiev Patriarchy. For most of people in Ukraine, this church is just like a big problem. Not a single issue was addressed, not with the prosecutor's office, not with the state. I did not receive a single answer to any of the letters that would guarantee me, Ukrainians who come to Ukrainian church, the security. To talk about what will happen sometime in the future, that's absurd. Let us discuss what's happening today. Today, you're saying that you need to file criminal cases as to the losses.
Я задаю питання, чому прокуратура не відкриває кримінальні справи? Конкретний приклад. Ви знаєте, що був суд 14 січня, за рішенням цього суду, суддя Соколова, в мене вилучено перший поверх. І передано комерційній фірмі, громадянину Росії, який уклав договори, який виграв суд. Я звертаюся до прокуратури. Прокуратура мені говорить, неможливо з'ясувати, чи в'їжджав цей громадянин на територію Криму, чи не в'їжджав. Тому що ми не маємо білета. І тому ми не можемо проти нього порушити кримінальну справу. Я говорю про суддю Соколову. Так само не можна порушити кримінальну справу, бо вона, оказується, не є суддєю. Але коли по Меджлісу суддя прийняла рішення, що треба заборонити цей орган, якось в Україні зразу знайшлися закони, що цю суддю притягують до відповідальності по відповідним статтям. Я звертаюся, патріарх звернувся до Яценюка, щоб було вирішено питання з приміщенням, в якому ми знаходимося. Тому що зараз це приміщення, воно знаходиться в оренді. До 95-го року це було приміщення власністю держави України, яке було передано Автономній Республіці Крим, і потім передано нам в оренду на 50 років. 1400 квадратних метрів. Право власності підтвердила і Держдума Криму. Коли в квітні приймала рішення про це приміщення, було зазначено, передайте мені 1400, але вже з комерційною оплатою. Згідно рішення суду, я мушу заплатити $500,000. $500,000 – це коло $7,000. І звільнити перший поверх. По суті, це є ліквідація Української православної церкви Київського патріархату. Це є ліквідація українського осередку в Криму. Лист від Міністерства економіки. Ви можете звертатися до суду. Якого суду? Це оренда. Оренда може бути продлена, оренда може бути виключена. Ми звертаємося, щоб була підготовлена постанова, доповнення до постанови, і це приміщення було передано, щоб правозахисники могли працювати в цьому напрямі. Нічого не робиться. Я звертався неодноразово щодо своїх парафіян, які сидять. Кольченка, Сенцов, Афанасьєв, Костенко. Що зроблено? Нічого. Якщо б не Оля Скрипник, то б взагалі б ніхто нічого не знав. Отак працює держава Україна. І тому я розумію, на території Криму багато народів, національностей, але за 24 роки держава України нічого не зробила. Жодної церкви, жодної української школи, жодного українського класу. Нічого не робилося в цьому напрямі. І сьогодні нічого не говориться про українців Криму. І тому питання приміщення, воно не знімається з порядку денного. І тут же питання полягає в тому, що якщо я втрачу це приміщення на території Криму, то другий судовий позов буде вже до держави України, яка не забезпечила мої права, права моїх віруючих, і яка не захистила мене. Щодо оцих політув'язнених, то хотілося б, щоб ця тема продовжувалася. Бо омбудсмен по правам людини, Лутковська, для неї теж не існує українців Криму. Тепер, щодо законодавства. В законодавстві мусить бути скасована ця норма про вільну економічну зону. Бо через цю вільну економічну зону почалися проблеми у тих українців, які виїхали на територію Криму. Що вони не в банках не можуть обслуговуватися, ні свої питання вирішити. Але зато депутати, які лобівали ці питання, вони вирішують свої питання і в Криму, і тут. Чомусь прокуратура не розслідувала за півроку почти, скільки там, 700 мільйонів доларів, які були прокручені вже під час анексії Криму. Тому по прокуратурі питання, щоб кримінальні справи були відкриті проти учасників, які намагаються в мене відібрати приміщення. Це Борисов, громадянин Росії, це Анохіна, це Северіна, це Кулініч, це суддя Соколова. Це ті, хто причетні до цього злочину. Друге питання. Питання до уряду. Прийняти відповідну постанову, яка би закріпила право власності цього приміщення за управлінням Української православної церкви Київського патріархату.
Legislative for the documents that might assign this premises to us. Thank you for your intervention. I think that the lawyers here could provide assistance to you. As for it's not the government, the state of Ukraine, which I would like to blame, but this is the government and the members of parliament who were on vacation when Crimea were annexated. As Georgiy Borisovich mentioned, let us start from today. We today sit around the same table. You can speak here. I believe that our expert discussions are needed to try to find possible solutions which could be offered to the state. Sergiy Andriy, I'm grateful to the Archbishop from Crimea, and I would like to say that we still do not have criminal cases against those people who destroyed Ukrainian education in Crimea, that 500 classes, hundreds of kindergartens, several hundreds of schools. Unfortunately, everybody here in Ukraine still keep silence. These are actually crimes, and we believe that the ministry should hear. Recently, we have heard that Euromaidan Crimea did not exist. I think that that's not true, because at that very time when there was the annexation, we were on the streets. Mr. Georgiy, now I address to you. We had been the advocates of your ministry and establishing such a ministry since 2014. We brought our Georgian colleagues here. They shared their experience about how to tackle the occupied territories. We even registered in the ministry the law on establishing the ministry on occupied Crimea. But there was a decision of establishing the service on the Crimea, state service on Crimean issues. And during the last 24 months, that service actually did nothing. And we, as former Crimean residents, were not satisfied with the work of that service. We would like to prevent such a grave situation for the future. Besides that, I would like to mention that our first concern should be those people who rejected to get Russian citizenship. We need to organize some sort of medical insurance for those people, our people who remain in Crimea. Also, we need to provide informational services and consultancy for those people who cross the administrative border between Crimea and Ukraine. At the administrative border, people should get information about healthcare services, recreation, hospitals, etc. And they should be able to get this assistance. Recently, a 4-year-old child died because of the lack of that services. Also, the distance education, the Renaissance Foundation allowed us to provide training in Ukrainian language and literature. Now we have moved forward with the Ukrainian history. This year we decided to integrate this part, education for Crimea, distance course for Crimea, into general Ukrainian distance course of Ukraine. We should establish the distance education, distance training system for those children who reside in Crimea and provide for simplified procedure for them to enter Ukrainian universities. Also, that IDPs and their children who have the right to live for free in student hostels and to get free education. The ministry's position is as follows. We do not have money in the budget for all these expenses. I think that's not right. And protection of human rights. And I hope Olga Skrypnyk from Ukrainian Human Rights Group will add a couple of words on this topic. Olga Skrypnyk. Dear participants, I'm representing human rights community here. The state's duty is to protect human rights. And I think that today the major question for us is to discuss the role of the state. I think for the first time the state can carry out protection of its citizens which remained in the occupied territory. It has the responsibility, it bears the responsibility for these people. But the last 2 years resulted in a very strange situation. Our objective is to protect human rights of those people who remained in Crimea. Political prisoners, arrests, etc. This is a result of the actions of the Russian Federation. But during the last 2 years, we found ourselves in rather strange situation. There are some cases against Ukrainian border guard officers. There are some cases against the National Bank about non-resident status. There are cases against the state, some cases of the state, some cases of individual people against the state, because the state violates the human rights. Ukraine should be the state where the rule of the law exists, and that is why we went to Maidan. And I think that the ministry should take another responsibility about resolution 1035, when people cannot transport medicines, food, some personal belongings, musical instruments, etc. Each day we receive calls from our people who are prohibited to do something. And when we raise the question how we can fight with the Russian separatism in Crimea, we should coordinate the answer to this question with another question, saying that we should not force people to accept Russian citizenship. We should strengthen cultural, social, economic ties of Crimean people with Ukraine. Our experience during last 2 years shows that any secret agreements result in a situation when the government borders simply do not function properly, and without efficient work of the state bodies, we won't be able to bring Crimea back. Frankly speaking, I understand Mr. Tuka when he says that you should not expect us to be nice. I understand the state cannot be nice or not nice. The state should be based on the rule of law, and the state should be based on the human rights enjoyment. And in this context, we are ready to cooperate with you to provide you with our support. We hope that you will staff your ministry with the right people very soon, and we offer our assistance in selecting this personnel. Thank you, Olga. Thank you for your comment. Frankly speaking, as of this very moment, I have no authorities to assess any facts as a person who instead of the person who will be appointed to take care about Crimean issues, about the rule of law and human rights. I used to say several times, and I'm not afraid to say this now, that I many times violated the laws of Ukraine. I brought military equipment doing this in the way of smuggling. I transported and imported military vehicles for our armed forces to Lugansk Oblast. When staying in Lugansk Oblast, I violated the legislation but prohibited the movement of forest trucks in the Lugansk Oblast, and thus this allowed me to provide necessary timber for our armed forces. Before doing this, I did not manage to do this thing within 3 months, acting in line with the legislation. Here, I would like to remind that the laws are written by people, and quite often the laws that are written, they conflict with the justice, and they conflict with the sense of fairness. That's why I disagree that we should not appeal to the law always. The human rights and the law are different. The law about the free economic zone is not the law which I won't implement because it conflicts with the human rights. There are some laws which violate the human rights. That is non-discrimination in the territory where Ukraine can protect people. Of course, Ukraine can provide to me banking services in Kherson Oblast. The problem is when I cannot get any banking service, neither in Kiev nor in Uman, because I am registered in Crimea as the resident. Of course, the law and the justice are different things sometimes, but what we wish to do is to ensure that the laws are applied equally to everybody. The resolution number 722 about procedure of entering Crimea. I'm pleased to invite to the microphone Ms. Natalia Belitser. I would like to offer a short remark that the human rights, what is more important, the human rights or the rule of law? Absolutization of the human rights, which is peculiar to some part of the human rights advocates. I should say not the human rights, but I would substitute it with the words life, human life, human security is the supreme value against the law. Maybe this is the subject of separate discussion. And please keep in mind that since officially we are not in situation of war, and based on this, the civil rights activists protest against violation of human rights. I fully share that severe criticism of the existed approach to Crimean citizens who fled from Crimea, about the deficiencies of the state policy, and especially about the procedure of crossing the border. And I would like to add that for the newly established ministry, it would be very important not just resolve the legal problems, how it should be organized, how the documents should be received, but the newly established ministry should actively develop the southern Kherson Oblast infrastructure, which would prevent a huge number of conflicts which are artificially stirred up there. Of course, Kherson Oblast lost much in the economic ties with Crimea, so they should be assisted in establishing new businesses like hotels, like catering points, etc. While for Crimean residents who cross the administrative border should feel themselves at home in Ukrainian territory.
One word I can add. I agree with you 100%. Being in Lugansk region, I was also facing same problems when people who live either alongside the border with Russia, along the contact line, they lost their markets. And now people suffer. They cannot find any additional markets. And that's realistically the problem of the state. As to observing or violating the law, there are two versions of translation of rule of law. And it's about translation into Ukrainian. This is the linguistic discussion. Well, very often people say that rule of law is much stronger than observing the rules. Now, Eskender Bariev, the representative of the Mejlis of the Crimean Tatar people, thank you for discussing this topic. But I believe that we are deviating from the main topic. A lot of time will pass, and we will not have enough time to discuss it all. We today are saying that there is a central executive body of Ukraine set up that has to execute certain tasks and functions. I would like to hear more about the vision of what are the tasks and objectives. I would like to see what would be the structure, what they will be working on. If I saw structure now, then I could have done structural organizational analysis, how the ministry will be, in which direction it will be working, taking into account the specific differences between the East and the Crimea. And besides, we do understand that the central authorities, and we started criticizing what we had before. Before we had the services, state services, which had no budget, which had no structure. Yeah, this is our common problem. Maybe not everything was absolutely open, but I want us to discuss today's topic, which is should be more open. We've been working on the strategy as experts, and understand that the body and the minister is the member of the cabinet of ministers, and that's a big achievement. In 2014, we were saying that there should be the ministry on Crimea. That's very important. Then what will be the structure, what they will be working on, what are the directions of their work. There are several laws, the law on temporary occupied territory, on IDPs, on establishing the rights, restoring the rights of people deported, and I believe that the ministry will not be able to execute all these tasks. There's the ministry which is working on international policy, but in this ministry, first of all, there should be the ministry on the department on IDPs. That is one of very serious issues. There should be the department on occupied territories, Crimea and the East. And third, the department, I would say, on Crimean Tatars, because there are some laws so that everyone understands, so that every law is effective. For that, there should be the regulations prepared. What should the ministry be doing? The ministry formulates the policy and implements the policy. And there should be the Department on International Relations, which should develop the policy in relation with the occupation of the territories, and it should have it should interact with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other ministries. We have the structure which we prepared 2 years ago, and we need today to talk about that. In which direction? I wouldn't be talking about personnel, but I would be talking about organizational structure. We need to understand what this ministry be working on and in which directions it will work, what state tasks it will be resolving. And then we need to select the people who can work, who understand what the work should be about, and this ministry should systematize it all. And there should be a special unit which will be dealing with each one of the sectors. We need to approach this issue very seriously. We need, and I don't want to take too much time, but we need to, people are trying to say, what will Crimea look like? There were such processes back in the 90s when Crimean Tatars were not allowed to settle anywhere in Crimea. That was the time when such things were happening. let us think about how we will continue to live, taking into account all these processes. We see that in Crimea there's the replacement of population. What we will do with that, we need to get self-organize ourselves. The ministry should be working, take into account these ethnical specific features. And today there should be the understanding that Crimea cannot exist without Crimean Tatars. Also, the representatives of Russian Federation say that Ukraine did nothing in relation to Crimean Tatars, and we say to Crimean Tatars that this is the indigenous people and it will be good for them to live in Russian Federation. We also need to formulate the policy which will give the signal to Crimea that those people who are for the integrity of Ukraine, even if they are passive, they should understand that the state is taking care of them. Thank you. I'm sorry. I would add, you were late, Mr. Bariev. In the beginning, we touched upon some of these issues. If you want to answer some other questions, you're welcome. A brief question. Thank you for suggesting to discuss the current problems, the structure, what should the ministry be working on. I believe that that is absolutely good. The question to you, what is your opinion? Maybe you know the opinion of the Mejlis of Crimean Tatar people as to the public discussion of the deputy minister on issues of Crimea. I'm not satisfied with the proposal to wait till the person is appointed and then start working. What's your attitude to that? When we talk about appointments, they appoint the ministers without discussing publicly with the NGOs. We have a lot of work, but when we are talking about political appointments, we are saying that the people should be represented. They should be professionals, they should have experience, and they should be supported by certain groups, supported by people who represent the population of Crimea. And we need to discuss it, we need to express, to exchange ideas, but I agree with the position of Mustafa Dzhemilev, who says that one of the deputies in this ministry should be professional person. I'm not saying that Crimean Tatar, because in reality, we don't have the ministry which would be working on issues of Crimean Tatars, and some of these competencies should be under this ministry. One of the deputies should be the representative recommended by the Mejlis of Crimean Tatar people. That would be right. You are for public discussion. The Mejlis of Crimean Tatar people is the representative body of the whole ethnic people, and we know each other. We've known each other for many years. You know my position. I've always been saying that we all together have to discuss some of these issues, and we need to do that for the sake of common interests. A small comment. I agree with the colleague. It's the sense to go back to the future, because the colleague participated in that competition that was for replacement of the position replacing the head of the service on Crimea and Sevastopol. All who participated in that competition will have the bad feeling with that. Here we have the deputy minister, not to repeat it, let us openly do it. Do you have someone to suggest, so come up with your candidates and let us together make this decision so that the state and public work in synergy, because we wasted 2 years and we don't have any more time left. One minute. Again, I'm not ready to this discussion from the point of view of legislation as to this position of the deputy minister. But believe me, as a civil servant with some experience, if the public presses, then anyone will start working. And this person will have to leave. Or he will have to leave. It all depends on the degree of the pressure. And one more thing, and that's about the department. I absolutely agree with everything. I would like to again emphasize this department or whatever, Department of Information Policy, let's call it this way. Unfortunately, myself, like 99% of the citizens of Ukraine, have many questions to the Ministry of Information Policy of Ukraine. But it's not about that. Just think about that. When we now are talking about reintegration of Donbass, of Crimea, I was just informed that someone who's called popular blogger, and he's from the east of Ukraine, he has just sent a message that he believes that after liberation of Donbass, all citizens have to be deprived of the right to vote at elections. That's just idiotic. Will this help reintegration, or is that the instrument of instigating another war? If similar idiots are there who will say that after Crimea joins Ukraine, then all the citizens of Crimea are to be deprived of the right to vote. Just think about that. Before you say something, think. I would like to remind you, we have 10 minutes left. Let us respect our guests in the audience. 2 minutes comments and give the floor to the guests when discussing the issue of the structure of personnel policy of participation. I just would like to remind you all about some provisions of the resolution of the Verkhovna Rada on the 20th of March 2014, where it clearly says all the issues which concern the rights and the interests of Crimean Tatar people are to be discussed in consultations with Mejlis. And in this context, in the legislation of Norway, there is such a provision when agreeing on the interests of the Parliament of Sami with the central authorities, the negotiations on common issues are to last till the consensus is reached. There are models, there are examples, and we need to study these best practices deeper. There are different levels, and then the question is, publicly or secretly, I believe that the new ministry will take the function of coordinator of the strategy. There are non-public provisions which cannot be discussed. There are some public initiatives So all these things are to be discussed publicly or non-publicly. All the efforts are to be coordinated. And this should be the function of newly formed ministry. Thank you, Natalia. I would like to talk about this resolution to continue. There is the law on civil service of Ukraine. There is a certain form and rules of conducting the competition. I have the experience. There were competitions held. They were all formal, and some people were appointed. I remember how you were heading the Center of Regional Development of Autonomous Republic of Crimea. There were competitions, and I don't want to talk about some subjective things. I want us to discuss how should we organize different sectors of work. Let us have some competition, but with that, we need to take into account the recommendation of the Crimean Tatar people.
Thank you, Eskender. Now 2 minutes. 2 minutes to our voice from the audience. I'm Metron Zvinsky, the 20th February, human activist NGO. If you look at 2 years ago, the competition on the head of the state service on Crimean issues, it was not a competition. And Eskender is right when he said that's political position, and the competition won't result in any technical appointment. We have, so to say, the Council of Crimean Residents, the former Crimean residents. We have some list of people whom we would like to appoint to this service. We may announce the competition, invite the applicants, check their programs, vote for them, and when we vote them, and then you, as the deputy minister, will submit this candidate to the government. And in this case, we won't have the problem with this political position and a real person working in this political position. For example, now again we hear about a possible appointment of Mr. Dzheppar, etc. There are some speculations. Let's work together and let us organize the competition, even here in the Crisis Media Center. This will take just 2 hours. We will accept the programs submitted to the competition, discuss them, vote, and that's it. We do not hear. The mic is off. The microphone is off. No input to the microphone. On the day when competition to fill in the position of the head of the service of Crimean residents was announced, Some people were immediately appointed. Kremlin and Ustayev, who were appointed by that procedure, then occupied positions in the newly established service. Let us not repeat those mistakes. Let's work together and honestly. In any case, I encourage you, irrespectively who will be the deputy minister on Crimean issues, please do not stop to present your requests to this person. So let's start our pressure from the competition. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Oleksiy, you wish to comment something? I would like to use this opportunity and congratulate myself with Jamala's victory. I support and I will continue to support the deoccupation. I always keep saying that the occupation of Crimea should unite all the democratic forces. We should get united, and we should understand that the human rights, that the rights of the indigenous people, Crimean Tatar people, they are of primarily value. We can speak in the context of creating the special navy units, etc., but the occupation would be only a result of the human rights efforts, and I wish to believe that the ministry will unite such activists who wish to deoccupy Crimea, and that the ministry in the future they will exclude from their vocabulary the idea that people should be brought to reservations, to some limited territories. I would like to add a comment on behalf of the Crimean Expert Center. I would like to add that all our findings about strategy of the occupation, about possible international solutions, about further filing of cases to the international courts. We are ready to provide all and full information to the future ministry and to ensure that it is efficiently used for the benefit of Ukrainian people. We have resolved a lot of issues today, and not related to the strategic vision, but we are ready to share with you our strategic developments. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to finish our round table. Thank you very much for your participation. I am very grateful to Mr. Georgiy Tuka. Thank you for coming us on behalf of the state. You were just two people. Human activists were much more numerous. We are ready for active discussions. Ukrainian Crisis Media Center is established with this purpose, but we more are ready for expert discussions. We are also ready to continue expert discussions about Crimea. And we are waiting for further meaningful expert discussions, and we are thinking about establishing a spokesperson on the Crimean issues. We are ready to provide you with a venue for this, and I invite everybody to the exhibition.